All right, welcome to your personalized deep dive. We're tackling something that might feel like a bit of a puzzle for anyone out there learning Arabic.
A puzzle. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, especially if you're using a system like Pronunciator, which I know a lot of you are.
With all those phrases and the chat bot and everything, it's a great program.
Totally. But then you hit this thing called the root and pattern system, and it's like, whoa, wait a minute, what is going on here?
Exactly. And that's what we're diving into today. It can seem a little intimidating at first, but trust me.
It's kind of the key that unlocks everything, right?
You got it.
Yeah.
Instead of just memorizing tons of individual words, this system helps you understand the logic behind Arabic vocabulary.
And that's what we're all about here, getting under the hood and figuring out how things work.
I like that, under the hood. So are you ready to decode this system?
Absolutely. Lay it on me.
Yeah.
I've been using Pronunciator and I keep running into this root and pattern thing, but I'm not quite getting it.
Okay, great. Let's start with how English usually handles word formation. We love adding prefixes and suffixes, right?
Right, like I'm happy or helpful, that kind of thing.
Exactly. But Arabic takes a totally different approach. It's all about these roots, usually 3 consonants, that represent a core concept.
Okay, so give me an example. What kind of root are we talking about?
Let's take KTB. Those 3 consonants mean to write. That's our root, our starting point. Now, instead of adding bits onto it, Arabic uses patterns.
Patterns, like blueprints.
Exactly. These patterns are combinations of vowels and sometimes extra consonants that fit around the root, kind of like slotting pieces into a puzzle.
So those patterns, they're telling us what kind of word we're building from the root.
Precisely. Is it a noun, a verb? What tense is it? Is it active or passive? All that information is encoded in the pattern.
Okay, so let's go back to KTB. I know the word for book in Arabic is kitab.
Perfect example. You see, to get kitab, we add I and I to the root. That's the pattern for a noun, and specifically for book.
So that's just one way to build on that root, right? What are some other possibilities? I mean, you can't just make every word for writing-related stuff from the same root.
Oh, but you can. Watch this. If we change the vowels to o, we get kataba, which means he wrote. Now it's a past tense verb.
Whoa, okay, I see what you mean. Just by switching up the vowels, we get a whole different word and grammatical function.
And there's more. We can add an M and an A before the root to get maktab, which means office, a place for writing.
So that M is part of the pattern that tells us it's a place.
You got it. Each pattern has its own function and meaning. And just to blow your mind a little further, we can use another pattern to create kutiba, meaning it was written. It's the same root, but now in a passive form.
Wow, so much information packed into those little patterns.
It's a beautiful system, isn't it? Once you start recognizing those patterns, you don't have to memorize every single word.
That takes a lot of pressure off, right? Instead of freaking out about vocabulary lists, you can focus on understanding the patterns and the roots.
Exactly. And the more patterns you learn, the easier it becomes to decipher new words. You'll start seeing the connections between words, even if they seem completely different at first glance.
So it's kind of like having a master key that unlocks a whole bunch of doors.
I love that analogy. You're not fumbling around with a different key for each word. You have this system that helps you navigate the entire language.
That makes so much more sense. But, just to clarify, it's not all about vowels, right? You mentioned those extra consonants like the M in maktab.
Right. Those are important too. They add another layer of meaning. For example, adding a before a root often signifies a doer of the action, like in kataba.
Oh, okay. So is that why we have the M in maktab?
Yeah.
Because it's the place where writing happens?
You're catching on fast. In this case, the M and A together create a pattern that signifies a place or an instrument associated with the root's meaning.
So maktab is literally like the place of writing. Makes perfect sense.
Exactly. It's like each pattern has its own little personality and function. It's a lot to take in at first, but as you start to recognize these patterns, it becomes second nature.
It's like learning a secret code, almost. Like cracking the enigma code of the Arabic language.
That's a great way to think about it. And speaking of cracking codes, let's try another root. How about QR, which means to read?
Okay, so using what we've learned, could we make a word like he read from that?
Absolutely. By using the AA vowel pattern we used earlier, we get quara, meaning he read. And if we want to say a reading, we can use a different pattern to get kira.
Wow, this is incredible. I'm starting to see how this system could totally transform how I approach learning Arabic vocabulary.
It's a game changer for sure. And think about all the amazing resources you have at your fingertips with Pronunciator.
Exactly. The flashcards, the chatbot, everything can be seen in a new light. You can start spotting those roots and patterns everywhere.
It's like a whole new dimension opens up. Instead of just repeating phrases, you're understanding the building blocks of the language.
I'm getting excited just thinking about it. It's like going from blindly memorizing words to actually understanding their DNA, their family history.
I love that. And that's what makes learning Arabic so fascinating. It's like detective work, piecing together the clues to reveal the meaning.
Absolutely. It's not about rote learning. It's about understanding the logic and beauty of the language.
And the best part is, the more you explore, the more patterns you discover. It's a continuous journey of discovery.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So for everyone listening, I challenge you, take a look at your pronunciator lessons and see how many words you can trace back to the same root.
I bet you'll be surprised by how many connections you find.
And that's what makes language learning so much fun. It's all about those aha moments, the connections you make.
Exactly. It's not about perfection. It's about the joy of discovery.
Well said. So, to everyone out there, happy exploring. And until next time, keep those brains buzzing.
Happy learning.